How's it going, everyone? I am back with another video. This is going to be my Week 6 score predictions video, where I'm going to go through all the NFL games that are going to take place over the weekend and the Monday night, well, two Monday night games this week. I'm going to break down how I think the games are going to go, give my score predictions, and yeah, all that good stuff. So, just dive straight in here. If I can advance my slide, there we go. So the first game, of course, it was the Thursday night game. So obviously this game already took place. I was I was just a bit off on my score prediction, I would say. Like many people, I picked the Eagles and was fairly confident with them, and obviously that didn't work out. Bit surprised how that game played out, which, well, pleasantly surprised as an Eagles hater at how the game played out, even though I'm not a big Giants fan, obviously, as a Patriots fan. But yeah, Giants just, well, the first half was close. The second half, they just steamrolled the Eagles right off the field. That was surprising. But I won't talk about this game too much. I'll talk about that more in my Week 6 recap video. I'll have out sometime next week. But yeah, I was gonna say something about this game. I'm blanking now. No, whatever. I'll probably remember it randomly in the middle of this recording. But anyway, I'll talk about this game more in my recap video. So the first game is it the what is, are they in? I know it's an international game. I think it's in London. Pretty sure it's in London. I'm not 100% sure though. But regardless, it's Denver and the Jets. Um, boy, tough draw for the Jets here. And just on top of it, it's technically a home game for them too, just to rub some salt in the wound there for the Jets. Yeah, tough draw for New York here, going against the Broncos, who coming off a big win against the Eagles. They're 3-2, but I think they're better than their record. They very well could be undefeated. At least should be 4-1. You would say they absolutely should have won that Colts game. They don't get the penalty at the end of the game with the kick for the Colts there. Then that Chargers game, they probably should have won too. The Jets, on the other hand, outside of week one against the Steelers, they've looked absolutely terrible. They've looked very poorly coached, very poorly disciplined. The defense has been absolutely awful. At least the offense has been serviceable at times. The defense has just been terrible the entire season. Even week one, it was a shootout that they lost. The offense was keeping them in the game, not the defense. Um, yeah, Denver just obviously the much better team. That defense, I think, is going to make this a rough showing for Justin Fields and company. I don't really see the Jets getting too much going offensively this game. Denver's defense, I think, is going to have a really good game. Denver's offense, I don't think they're going to light it up and score, like 40 plus, but I think the Jets defense will stop them a few times. I think for the most part, Denver's offense is going to have a really good game. I've been putting up 27. The Jets, I just don't see this being a good game for them. Although international game, I don't know, maybe weird things can happen there. The Broncos are favored by 7.5. I think the I think the Broncos will cover the spread. I'm probably not going to touch it just to be safe because it's a big spread. They'd have to win by 8 or more to cover. Um, the Jets, if they somehow win the game, I could see a scenario where I guess their defense finally gets it together and plays like a serviceable, Steve Wilks coach defense, you can say. So maybe they hold Denver to a relatively low score, but the Jets offense, I have a tough time seeing them having success in this one. Maybe the run game gets going, Fields gets going. That could be how they pull off the upset, but I'm pretty confident with Denver to take care of business here and get the win 27-14. Next game, Patriots Saints. So, I'm going with my team, of course, the Patriots. We're favored by 3.5. That's a fair spread, I would say. I am a bit nervous going into this game we just had the high of the Bills game week 5, Sunday night, biggest win in years for us, feel good moment. And then you just see the Saints from the player and team perspective, you just see the Saints on the schedule and it's like, all right, well, we just beat the Bills. The Saints are 1-4. They're rebuilding. We should be able to take care of business and just kind of go into the game, you know, not that we're not fully prepared, but just kind of, not with as much intensity as we did last week, for example, and it ends up getting us caught. That is a scenario I think is possible, and if that happens, the Saints very well could win the game. I don't think it will happen because Diggs talked about it in his he had a locker room media session, and he talked about basically what I just outlined there, and that they're not trying to fall into the trap game. So, and yeah, Vrabel, I feel like isn't going to fall into that trap either. So I think we'll take care of business here. We are the better team. The Saints are better than people I think give them credit for. They're 1-4, but they've been right there in all their games except that Seattle game. That was a nightmare for them. But besides that game, they've been right there in all of their games. They won last week against the Giants. And we just saw what the Giants did against the Eagles, and they beat the Chargers, who I know the Chargers have been struggling the past 2 weeks, but they beat the Chargers and the Eagles, and the Saints just beat them. And yes, they did get 5 turnovers. 2 of them probably were a bit fortunate, especially the Dart fumble. But still, looking like more and more of a quality win. Well, it's only been one game since then, but looks more of a quality win after the Thursday night game than initially right after the game. And at home, the coming off a win, crowd will give them a big boost. I feel like the Saints have a good fan base there. Rattler, I think he's been a bit better than people have expected. The thing that is like a big, what's the phrase I'm looking for here? A big positive for us, I guess, is how I'll phrase it here. This game is our run defense has been insane this season. And the Saints like to run a very conservative offense. I feel like kind of run the football, kind of check it down a lot to Kamara. So we can stop the run game, make them one-dimensional, and force those checkdowns. That'll be good for us. Maybe the Saints get a deep shot or two to someone like Shaheed. Gonzo's questionable, so hopefully he's good to go. But if he's out, maybe Shaheed has a deep shot or two. Saints defense, I think, will play decent. If the Saints do win this game, I think it'll be because their defense kind of holds us to around 20, somewhere around there, and the offense just does enough to get it done, like scores 20, 23, something like that. I could see the Saints offense again, especially if Gonzalez is out having a decent day, but I'm rolling with us. We're the better team. I think we'll be prepared. I do think this will be a close game. If the Saints win, I absolutely think it'll be a one-score game right down to the wire. But if we win, I could see us winning, hopefully in a blowout. That would be nice. But I think at most we'll win by like 10 to 14-ish points, somewhere around there, maybe 17 at the most. But I think this will be a close game, regardless of which team wins. But I have faith in my team. I think it'll be close. We'll pull it off, get a dramatic win. That's what my gut's telling me. So I'm going to roll with my team to pull it off, get the dub in New Orleans, 24-17. Cardinals Colts. This could be an interesting game. Now I'm picking the Colts to win, but everyone's down on the Cardinals after last week. They've now lost 3 in a row. Obviously, it's absolutely inexcusable to lose the way they did against the Titans. They outplayed them and they beat themselves with just boneheaded plays of the DeMarcado fumbling it at the 1, Deshaun Jackson in the ball, which A.D. Mitchell should battle the two teams that fumble the ball at the 1-yard line with a walk-in touchdown. I just realized that now. So you get A.D. Mitchell, and it happened in back-to-back weeks too. That's crazy. So A.D. Mitchell did it, then DeMarcado did it, and then obviously the pick after the pick, they bobbled it into the end zone. Titans recover for a touchdown, and then they just run it. They go run, and get the ball back to the Arizona. Well, they got a first down. Then they went run, get a first down, or punt it to the Titans, and then they lose. So inexcusable. Everyone's kind of down on them. They just see the matchup on paper. The Colts are humming right now. It's like, all right, obviously Indy's going to take the game. Arizona's defense has been really good this season. If they're off, and I think they'll play a decent game in this one, if their offense can kind of get going instead of just, being stagnant like it is kind of the past 2 seasons, honestly, they very well could win the game. If the Cardinals do win the game, I think their offense has a really good game. They score around like 27-ish points, like 28. I don't think they'll score more than that, but And their defense, I could see their defense giving the Colts some issues. That could be the key to Arizona winning the game. Their offense just finally has a complete game, it feels like. The Colts, though, they're just a better team at home. I think they'll take care of business. They're favored by 7. I'm going to stay away from that. I have them covering with my score prediction, but I'm going to stay away from that spread. Because, again, I could see it being well, this is a close game, but even closer than this. Just, yeah, better coach. They're just more stable right now. You just trust them more. I think their defense will. I think the Cardinals have a couple drives where they obviously do well, put up 20. I have them doing, but I think the Colts defense, like it is most of the season, will play a good game. I think their offense gets it done. I think it'll be close for a while, maybe like tied going into the fourth or something like that, and then the Colts kind of figure some things out, put some more points up on the board, gets them the win. So this will be an interesting matchup, but I'm going to go with Indy to take this one 27-20. Dallas and Carolina. This is a really interesting matchup. I almost picked the Panthers in this one, but I'm gonna slightly lean Dallas here. I just can't really get a gauge on the Panthers. Talk about being inconsistent. I mean, they have the Falcons game where they win 30-0. Then they play my team, and then we absolutely steamroll them. Week 1 they looked awful against the Jags, which that doesn't look as bad now. The Jags are 4-1. Then week 2 they get the doors blown off them by the Cardinals and still almost won the game. The Cardinals almost choked that one too. But yeah. Then week 3, then week 4, then last week they're down 17-0, and then from that point on they looked like a really solid team. So they're hard to gauge right now. They're at home. If this was in Dallas, I 100% would be picking the Cowboys. Not too much hesitation. But Panthers are just a different team at home compared to being on the road. But Dallas, I think this will. So obviously you get. I don't even know. I was going to say you get 2 bad defenses, but obviously Dallas's defense is bad. But Carolina's defense, it looked great against the Falcons, and it looked good after they were down 17-0 to the Dolphins last week. And Dallas's offense is, as I just said, obviously a disaster this season. But it feels like last week yes, it was against the Jets, but last week it feels like they kind of figured some things out. They started to play a bit better, and they're going up against a very inconsistent Panthers offense. So I think Dallas's defense is going to play a bit better than people expect them to this game. I almost said this season. This game, playing worse than I think we expected them to this season. But I think just this game individually, Dallas's defense will play a solid game. And I just trust Dak and the Cowboys offense, even though they're without CeeDee Lamb still, more than Bryce Young and the Panthers offense. Yeah, maybe Rico Dowdle goes off again. Obviously, a revenge game for the Cowboys. He talked about how they shouldn't have, let him move on. Schottenheimer said they'll be ready, so that'll be an interesting matchup. Yeah, if Carolina wins the game, I think their offense, I certainly think their offense is going to have to put up more than 20. So their offense is going to have to do a bit better than I'm predicting it to. I think their defense is going to be the main reason. If they win the game, I do see a scenario where their defense plays kind of similar to how it did last week and maybe holds Dallas to like 17, 20 points, somewhere around there. I think this will be a tight. I could see a blowout. I honestly could see either of these teams blowing out one another. It's a really weird game in my head, at least, how it could go. But I think it'll be close regardless. Yeah, I could see Dallas blowing the Carolina out, or the Panthers blowing the Cowboys out. But I think it'll be close. I just trust the Cowboys a bit more. I'm definitely probably going to stay away from this game. I'm going to roll with Dallas. They're favored by 3. I would certainly stay away from that spread, even though I have them covering it. I think it's a borderline coin flip game. So I'm going to roll with Dallas to win this game 27-20 here. Next game, the Rams and the Ravens. Oh, boy. Yeah, I'm going to, of course, go with the Rams here. The Ravens are just a disaster right now. If they win this game, I'll be shocked. The Rams coming off sort of like the mini bye week, the Thursday night game against the Niners, which was a disappointment, going against the hospital 49ers over there, and they still lost the game. they probably feel they should have won. You know, McVay talked about how he's beaten himself up for the 4th-and-1 play call, didn't put the guys in a good position to execute and win the game there, and so they're going to be pissed off, I think, and they're going against the Ravens team that really I can't think of anything going for them at the moment. Lamar is out. If Lamar was playing in this game, I would probably still pick the Rams, but at least there'd be more of an argument. Going against the Ravens team with Cooper Rush in there, you get Derrick Henry, who's done pretty much nothing outside of Week 1 against the Bills. Their defense is historically bad. They're still banged up. Yeah, it's just the Ravens just do not have too much going for them right now. The Rams are going to be pissed off. Awful defense in Baltimore. Look for their offense to pop off. Their defense is really good too. The Rams going against, again, an offense with a backup quarterback and a struggling run game. So look for them to take advantage there. I honestly think it'll be like 34-13, and then Baltimore will score like a garbage time touchdown. The Rams are in prevent defense. That's why I have it being, a respectable sort of close score, I guess, 14 points. The Rams are favored by 7. I think they'll cover that. I'll probably bet it. If Baltimore somehow wins this game, I think it'll just have to be, I don't know. I really don't have too much faith in their defense. So maybe their offense, the run game gets going. Maybe Cooper Rush plays like he did at Dallas. Their special teams, maybe they get a punt. They're just going to have some weird things happen. Like their special teams, give them great field position. Maybe they get some fumbles. It's just going to be a weird game. Like weird things are going to have to happen for the Ravens to win. In my opinion, I just am really confident with the Rams here. I would honestly be surprised if they lose this game. Baltimore, if they lose this one, they'll be 1-5 heading into the bye. So that would be an interesting 2 weeks for them to sit on being 1-5 in the position they're in now. But at least Lamar is going to come back after the bye for them. But in this game, I would be honestly shocked if the Rams lost. So I'm going to pick them to win the game 34-20 here. Chargers and Dolphins. This is an interesting one because, a couple weeks ago, you would have said, all right, well, the Dolphins are really struggling. The Chargers are 3-0. They are really looking good right now. Obviously, the Chargers. Now it's, well, the Dolphins are, I was going to say now it's flipped. Well, for the Chargers, yes. They've lost 2 in a row. Their offensive line is extremely beat up. Herbert's getting pressured immediately, it feels like, on pass plays. They're not running the ball. Their top 2 running backs are injured, with Harris being out for the season, Hampton on IR. Their defense isn't playing too great right now, it feels like. And the Dolphins, yes, they're only 1-4, but it feels like their offense is, even without Hill, I know last week they were up 17-0 and then they only scored 7 after that. But it feels like their offense is starting to click a bit more. But I'm still going to pick the Chargers. I think they're the better team. I think this is the game they kind of get back on track, look similar to how they did the first 3 weeks of the season. I don't think, by any means the offense is going to light it up at all. I think the Dolphins are going to get some pressure on Herbert. I think it'll be relatively low scoring for a while. Then the Chargers will kind of figure some things out, put some points up on the board as the game goes. I think their defense gets back on track. I'm picking them. My gut just telling me this is the game they get back on track. The Dolphins, like I said, if they win the game, I do think they could get some pressure on Herbert, maybe force some punts. Their defense plays a solid game. I could see their offense, maybe like Waddle has a couple deep receptions. They go deep to him a couple times. That's a difference in the game. Schematically, I feel like the Dolphins could have a decent amount of success offensively. They like to get the ball out quick, intermediate, get some yak yardage. It feels like the Chargers have been struggling to, make tackles, it feels like, even defensively, especially in the second half of the game last week. And Miami excels at yak in certain situations, it feels like. Maybe A-Chain has a look for him to make a couple big plays in this one. That could be the Dolphins' key to success, but I don't know. I if this was in LA, I certainly would be picking the Chargers, more confidently. I'm fairly confident they'll win. As far as covering the spread, I would stay away from it, even though I had them winning by 7. I could see the Chargers winning fairly big, not maybe like two like 10-14, something like that. The Dolphins win. I think it'll be close. I don't see them winning by more than a few points. Um, but yeah, I would stay away from the 4.5 because I feel like 4 is the highest I would go. Even though I have them winning by 7, I would be a very conservative bettor. So I don't like to waste up my money as I gamble and bet on sports like every day pretty much, but that's okay. But yeah, I'm going to pick the Chargers here. I'm going to pick them to win the game 24-17 in this one. Cleveland and Pittsburgh. I think this is absolutely going to be a low scoring defensive battle. Steelers defense has really gotten into a groove the past couple weeks after being really uncharacteristically bad the first few weeks of the season. And the Browns defense, they're legit. Jim Schwartz and his 2+ years there, he's done a great job. 23, they were the top defense. 24, they, fell down a bit in the rankings, but they had some injuries and they still were a solid defense. This year, I think they're still the number 1 ranked defense. Going into this week 6 of the season. But yeah, if this was in Cleveland, I honestly think I would be picking the Browns. And I could see the Browns pulling off the upset in this game too. But the Steelers coming off the bye, extra week to prepare. They're at home. Their defense has started to pick it up. Their offense performed a lot better than I thought it would against the Vikings. Now, obviously, the Browns' defense is a bit different, but actually technically better. But you can argue that the Browns they're not as, I wouldn't say diverse as far as, like their pre-snap looks and, Brian Flores screwing with the quarterback, things like that. They don't do as much as that, but statistically they're better, but they don't do as much as that. The Steelers, basically my point is you can argue, even though the Browns defense is better, the Vikings defense on paper may have been more of a threat to the Steelers. Maybe you can argue that. And they moved the ball well, and I know they kind of stalled out points-wise, but in the second half for a bit, and they almost blew that game. Actually, that would have been horrible if they blew that game. But yeah, I think the offense is going to do just enough in this game. I almost said 17-13. I think the Browns defense is going to keep it, like most games, close. But in this game, I think they'll keep it close to the entirety of the game rather than, the teams putting up points at the end there, like it kind of happened in most Browns games this season. I think Cleveland's defense keeps it close till the end, but I just don't see Dillon Gabriel and the offense doing enough. Maybe if the Browns do win the game, like I said, I think their defense will keep it close. Maybe Judkins in the run game can pick up where it left off against the Vikings last week. But Dillon Gabriel, I don't think he's gonna do too much. The Steelers at home, coming off a bye, they're the better team. Defense is picking it up. Offense is sort of starting to pick it up. Going against Dillon Gabriel, a rookie quarterback, I just can't pick the Browns in this one. But I think it'll be low scoring. I think it'll be, close either way. Steelers, I think by most they probably win is like 10-14, but I think it'll be a 1-score game. I'm gonna roll the Steelers. I probably would stay away from that spread, even though I have you know what? I think they'll cover the spread. I'm fairly confident in that, but sort of not. But yeah, I think they'll cover it. Why not? I have them doing it, but I don't know if I'm gonna bet on it myself or not. Probably. Yeah, I'll do it. All right. Anyway, I'm gonna roll with Pittsburgh doing this one 20-13. Seattle and Jacksonville. This is a really tough game to predict here. Super back and forth on this game. If this was in Seattle, I would be picking the Seahawks, even with the injuries they have. I'm really back and forth in this game. The Jags were favored by, I want to say like 2.5 or something like that. And then the last time I checked, maybe it was 1.5. And then all of a sudden when I went to, I started making my PowerPoint and, looking up the lines and everything. the Seahawks for some reason were favored by 1.5 now. I don't think I saw any like injury news or anything like that. So maybe they're getting some guys back defensively. Maybe Vegas knows something that we don't yet. Um, but yeah, obviously something happened for the Seahawks to automatically the spread to swing in their favor. The reason I'm picking the Seahawks is because I think their defense is going to get back on track, even though they're a bit banged up. Last week was extremely uncharacteristic against the Bucs. And the Jags offense, it looks great in spurts, but we also saw sort of in the Chiefs game more so at the start, and kind of in games this season, they have the ability to stall out. Lawrence is a bad throw. They have a bad turnover, something like that. So I think Seattle's defense is going to force, a few drives where Lawrence just looks bad, has some bad throws, things like that. That'll be a big difference in the game. And the Jags defense, on the other hand, it's obviously they're incredible at forcing turnovers and very timely turnovers too. But you can move the ball on the Jaguars. And it feels like to me the Seahawks haven't really been turning the ball over that much, at least that I can remember. So I think they'll be able to move the ball well and not turn it over, and that'll be a key for the Seahawks here. If the Jags can, again, force a couple turnovers, though, they should win this game. But, yeah, Seattle, I think their defense is better. They're going to be pissed off how poor they played last week. They'll bounce back. The offense, I think, moves the ball, doesn't turn it over. If the Jags win the game, their defense could just keep doing what it's been doing, forcing turnovers, and their offense could, I think maybe Lawrence and company just play a bit better than I'm expecting. Lawrence doesn't have as many bad throws as I'm expecting. Maybe doesn't turn it over a time or two. I could see that scenario, but very, very tough game. I'm certainly staying away from this one. I think this is an absolute coin flip game. Going to be very interested to see how this game plays out, but I'm going to pick Seattle. I was excited when they were underdogs. So I'm like, I'm going to go with an underdog here. But now they're favored. But, I'm going to go with Seattle in a coin flip game here. Right down to the wire to win a tight one, 27-24. Titans-Raiders. This should be an interesting game. Battle of 2-1-4 teams. Raiders are favored by 4.5. I'm picking them to win the game, and I'm honestly a bit confident. Like every week, I'm like, all right, I don't think the Raiders are as bad as people say they are. I think they'll be mid this season, maybe win around 6-7 games, pull off an upset or two. Well, maybe I was wrong because that is starting to look worse and worse every week, and my team's loss to them week one is starting to look worse more and more as the season progresses here. The Raiders are just a disaster right now, and then Chip Kelly and Pete Carroll are kind of, in the media saying contradicting comments about how the offense is being run. They just allowed 40 last week to the Colts. They put up 6 points. Geno's turning the ball over at a ridiculous rate. But they're at home. This is a great opportunity to get back on track for them against a terrible Titans team that got pure luck on their side last week. Besides Cam Ward, this team the defense is solid. The defense kept them in the game last week, but pure luck won them that game. They got so many lucky breaks in that game. But it was good to see Cam Ward lead a game-winning drive there. And, I feel bad for him. The coaching's terrible. The receivers are dropping passes. The line's bad. I feel bad for Cam Ward. So that was good to see on his part last week. But yeah, I'm going to roll the Raiders here. I could see them honestly winning this game. I guess I could see it in a blowout, but I think it'll be relatively close. I do see a scenario where they could just blow the doors off the Titans. Like, okay, where has this Raiders team been? They win like 17, maybe even 20, something like that. But I think it'll be relatively close. I think Geno, he finally is a clean game. He doesn't turn the ball over. I think Genti, he's going to have a really good game in this one. That's what my gut's telling me. I think the Titans, it feels like they allow like a big run at least once a week. So maybe Genti, he's been getting it going a bit. Maybe he has a big run or two in this game. As far as the Raiders defense, I think they'll be able to hold Cam Ward and the Titans offense for the most part, like most defenses. The Titans, I think their defense could keep it Relatively close though. If the Titans do win, I think it'll be because maybe Geno does what he's been doing. He turns the ball over. Titans defense also does what they've been doing, kind of keep the games close till the end there. And the offense gets a bit more than I'm expecting it to. But yeah, I'm honest, even though they're only 1-4, both teams are. I'm fairly confident with the Raiders here. I think they will cover that 4.5 points, right? I think they'll win by at least 5. I probably won't bet on it because it's the Raiders, but I don't know. Maybe I will in one of my free bet, my bonus bet parlay. I'll throw that in there. But do I really want to bet on the 1-4 Raiders? Probably not. Um, but yeah, I'm gonna roll with the Raiders here. I wouldn't be too surprised if the Titans win, but I'm fairly confident with the Raiders to take care of business here. Think they'll get back on track, take care of business here. I'm gonna roll with them to win the game 24-17. Cincinnati and Green Bay. Yep. Tough draw for the Bengals here, going against the Packers, who have not really been playing the best football the past 2 weeks. Very weird football. Well, 3 weeks, I guess, because the Packers coming off their bye, so that's red flag A for the Bengals. Red flag B for the Bengals. The Packers are going to be pissed off that they tied the Cowboys, especially their defense. I mean, the offense was fine, obviously, putting up 40, but their defense allowed 40 to the Cowboys. They're going to be pissed off without Lamb, even though the Cowboys' offense has been humming. So they're going to be pissed off. And then on top of that, they're going to probably still be pissed off. They lost that Browns game, and which is actually going to be weird because Joe Flacco is starting for the Bengals, and obviously he beat the Packers 3 weeks ago, so he's playing them, for the second time in just a couple of weeks here. So second time in 3 weeks? So that's going to be interesting there. Maybe they take some of their frustration out on the Browns loss to Joe Flacco this game. But yeah, Packers coming off a bye. Matt LaFleur, excellent game player. I think the offense has a really good game. Bengals defense really struggling. So I think the Packers offense will have a really good game. I honestly could see them putting up even more than this, like 34, 35, something like that. I think the Packers defense is a really good game too. I know I had the Bengals scoring 20, it only being an 11-point game, but I think sort of like the Ravens game, I think they'll be at like 13 and get a garbage time touchdown. The Packers maybe are in prevent, something like that. If Cincy wins this game, I really have a hard time seeing them doing that, but maybe Joe Flacco just gives the offense a burst. They, look like more the offense of that talent that we expected them to be. Maybe the defense sort of picks up where it did last week. They didn't play good last week, but it looks like they at least took some steps forward, even though the scoreboard wouldn't suggest that. It's just going to have to be a random game where the offense pops off, I think. I get a hard time seeing the Bengals defense playing a good game in this one. But who knows? With the Packers coming off a bye, I really do not see the Bengals winning. The Packers are favored by 14.5 points, which is crazy. So I would they very well could cover that, but I would stay away from it. I'm pretty confident with the Packers here to take care of business. I'm going to roll them to win the game 31-20. San Fran and Tampa. This should be a really good game. Very back and forth on this game. I honestly feel like coaching-wise, the 49ers, I'm more comfortable with them. I feel like Shanahan I feel like he'll get the better of Todd Bowles in this game. It's just going to be the injuries to the Niners, I think, are going to be evident this game, and the Bucs are hurt too, but not as bad as the Niners. I feel like the injuries finally catch up with the 49ers, at least in the win-loss column. I know they lost, obviously, to the Jags, but I think the Niners will drop this game, like, primarily due to the injuries they have. This was in San Fran. That would be this game's already tough for me to pick. It would be even tougher if it was in San Francisco. I'd probably pick the Niners in a tight one. But yeah, the Niners, if they do win this game, like I said, I think their offense has the potential to have a good game. Todd Bowles, I was just talking about, the Seahawks getting back on track defensively. The Bucs defense played awful last week too. So maybe they're looking to get back on track. But also, what I was going to say is Todd Bowles, his defense is obviously very good, like every year for the most part. But it feels like it's torchable in certain games, like we saw last week. I could see the Niners offense really having success in this game, despite all the injuries. And their defense, I think their defense will play a really good game. I think Tampa is going to be able to put up a decent amount of points. I have them putting up 23, but I'm a big Robert Saleh guy. I really like the way he coaches the Niners defense and, defense in general. But yeah, I think the defense will keep it close to the Niners. They're going to, give the Bucs some challenges that they haven't seen this season. So I think it'll be close throughout the whole game. If either team wins by more than one score, I'd be actually the Bucs. I could see the Bucs maybe winning by like 10-14, but the Niners, if they win, I absolutely think it'll be close. What else in this game? Yeah, the Bucs though, I'm picking them to win because, like I said, I think the injuries to the Niners are going to be a big difference. I think that Todd Bowles' defense is just going to make that one extra play on the 49ers offense to help them win the game. I think Baker's probably going to have a clutch drive late in the game, like we've seen every game this season, pretty much, especially in their wins. That'll be a big difference in the game. Baker being Baker in the clutch, defense making an extra play. Yeah, this is a really tough one to predict. I would certainly stay away from this game betting. I honestly might not even bet, the 49ers to cover the spread here. Even though I have the 49ers technically covering, but I was going to say something else in this game. Yeah, this should be really interesting. Robert Saleh against Baker Mayfield. That'll be an interesting matchup. Like I said, I think the Niners defense will play good. Bucs offense will struggle a bit, but they get it done. Kyle Shanahan against Todd Bowles. That'll be interesting. I think there'll be some drives where it's like the Niners, this is a disaster for them offensively. Then they'll have some good drives. There'll be a sequence in the game where it looks like the Niners are probably going to win. Then maybe Baker brings it back. Yeah, this is going to be a really interesting game to see how it plays out. Wouldn't at all be surprised if the Niners won. I think this is a coin flip game. I'm going to very marginally lean Bucs here and pick them to win the game 23-20. Should be a really good game, though. Sunday night game, Detroit and Kansas City. This is going to be a really good game. At least it should be on paper. I am picking the Lions to pull off the upset. I'm honestly a bit surprised they're underdogs by 2.5 points. I figured the Chiefs would be favored. It would only be by like 1.5 points. So them being favored by 2.5 is a bit of a surprise to me. If this was in Detroit, I 100% would be picking the Lions without too much hesitation. And the Lions, I'm sure would be favored. But even though all logic kind of suggests the Lions should win this game, my gut is kind of telling me the Chiefs are going to win this game. I don't know why. I just kind of feel like the way the game is going to play out is the Lions have been absolutely steamrolling everyone. This game, they just don't look like they had the past couple weeks. They look more like the team we saw in week 1. And the Chiefs really find success and kind of, win comfortably by maybe even, multiple scores, you can say, like maybe 2, 3 at the most. So that's kind of honestly how I see the game playing out with my guts telling me. I'm going against my gut here, which normally doesn't work out for me. So we'll see how it goes here. Honestly, a part of it is because I'll be rooting against the Chiefs, so I want both my pick and my rooting interest to align. But no, I normally don't do. I just normally pick the team I think is going to win the game, and usually if it's a team I'm rooting against, I just am like, all right, I'd just rather have them, the team I'm pulling for, win the game, and even if my picks wrong. But it's nice when they align. Yeah, logic, like I said, suggests the Lions should win the game. I mean, they've looked a lot better than the Chiefs. They honestly, to me, they look like the best team in football. The Chiefs are 2-3. They just lost to the Jaguars. They're not that that's a bad loss. Of course, the Jags are really good this season, but they absolutely killed themselves with penalties in that game. Self-inflicted wounds. We've just seen a lot of uncharacteristic things from the Chiefs this season. the offense, I will say, I mean, yes, it was against the Ravens where it's like, all right, they're back, but the Ravens defense has been historically bad. They had 6 starters injured in that game. And then obviously last week they moved the ball really well. They put up, 28 points, but it feels like they moved the ball well enough to put up 45 or something. Like, okay, maybe not 45, but 42 maybe. Um, so yeah, the offense has been. Sorry, I'm just trying blanking here what I'm gonna say. Yeah, the offense of the Chiefs, it does feel like it's getting better and better. And the Lions defense has been playing really good too, but going against a first year coordinator, and yes, the Chiefs offense has been mid, I would say, for the past 3 years. But again, veteran, arguably the greatest offensive coach ever, Andy Reid, going up against a first year defensive coordinator. That certainly favors the Chiefs, I would say. At home, prime time, obviously that favors the Chiefs. But yeah, I think this is going to be a shootout. And to me, it's just what offense do I trust more, the Lions or the Chiefs at the moment? Well, obviously, to me, the answer is the Lions. Even though the Chiefs' offense has been back, the Lions, outside of Week 1, have not looked back, missing both of their coordinators. As a matter of fact, they've actually been better statistically on both sides of the ball without their coordinators, which is absolutely insane. Um, so yeah, I'm going to pick the Lions. I think this will be a shootout. I don't think either defense plays too well, but I'm going to pick the Lions. I just trust their offense a bit more. I think it'll be, maybe tied at the end. They get in field goal range, to win the game. That's how the game plays out. If the Chiefs do win, maybe their defense makes. I could see their defense if their defense plays like it did the first half of last week, which I actually think is a very realistic scenario. Logically it doesn't make much sense, but if they can play, like they did the first half last week against the Jaguars, in this game, at least for a stretch of this game, that'll be a reason they could win the game. Honestly, if either of these teams turns the ball over, the other team might win. That's how close this game is going to be, I think. So maybe the Chiefs force a Lions turnover. Again, there's that scenario I laid out where the Chiefs just really pull things together. It's a bit of a shocker. They win comfortably, maybe like the Baltimore game. Could see that. But I'm going to pick the Lions here. Honestly, I gave more logic to why the Chiefs could win, but it's just my gut's kind of telling me Chiefs. I'm going against my gut. I'm going to go with the Lions. Just trust their offense a bit more. Should be a really entertaining Sunday night game. Please, Detroit. The Chiefs will be 2-4 if you lose. That would be so magnificent. And if the Raiders win and the Chiefs lose, they'll be tied. As awful as the Raiders have been this season in division, obviously the Chiefs, barring something unforeseen, will finish better than the Raiders, but that would still be funny to see. But yeah, I'm going to pick the Lions to win the game 31-28. Should be a really interesting game, though. Bills and Falcons, the first of the Monday night games. I hate when they do 2 Monday night games. It's absolutely ridiculous. The whole point of a primetime game is so, you're the only 2 teams on and everyone can watch, but you put 2 on. And it's the 3rd time they've done it this season, which is, it's just, well, actually, is it the second or third time? Obviously, 2 weeks ago was 2. Okay, maybe it is only the second time they've done it. Unless no, it's only the second time they've done it. Anyway, this should be an interesting game. The Bills coming off a loss against, fortunately coming off a loss against my beloved Patriots. I think they're going to be pissed off at how they played. They kind of played like their C game. It felt like a lot of penalties, a lot of sloppy football. They had 2 sloppy fumbles, and then they had the pick with Allen, which, probably shouldn't have happened if they didn't get or wouldn't have happened if they didn't get the illegal block in the back on the second one, the prior play. I think their offense is going to be pissed off. They're going to get back on track. The Falcons defense has looked good in points this season, but at points this season, I meant to say. But Bills offense, I think it really gets back on track. I feel pretty strong in that regard. Bills defense, I could see the Bills winning this game fairly comfortably. Their defense plays a really good game, but I've not been too impressed with the Bills defense this season. it has not played very good outside of that Jets game, and that was no offense to the Jets, but the Jets. And what was I gonna say? Blanking. Um, sorry, I look at a notification on my watch here, and I'm blanking. Whatever. Yes, the Bills defense, I could see it randomly having a really good game. We saw that the Falcons offense had that really outlier-ish game against the Panthers. They couldn't put up a single point. They got shut out. I don't think by any means they'll get shut out in this game, but I could see the Bills really playing like they did week 2, maybe their defense against the Jets in this game. I think the Falcons, of course, will score more than 10 points. But I think both defenses kind of have rough showings. Maybe they get a couple stops apiece, but I think it'll be a borderline shootout. I just trust Josh Allen and the Bills offense more than Michael Penix and company. We've seen Penix in the offense can, really get going, put up a good amount of points, but we have also seen them, put up 0 against the Panthers, and they've had some rough stretches. It feels like at points of the season, like week 1 against the Bucs, it was kind of a rough stretch for a while after their opening drive touchdown. They look great against the Commanders 2 weeks ago, though. They're coming off the bye, so that'll help them as well. At home, prime time, the crowd will be pumped up. That obviously is a bit of a boost to the Falcons, but I just trust the Bills a bit more. I do not really see them losing 2 in a row, especially in the fashion they lost the first one, just playing sloppy. They probably feel that they gave the game away. Just going to be pissed off there. Could see them winning comfortably. I probably wouldn't touch that spread, even though they very well could cover it. The Bills, at least. If the Falcons win, I absolutely think it'll be close by a few points. Bills, I could see them winning comfortably, but I'm going to pick them just to do enough to get the job done, to win on the road 31-27 in this one. The second Monday night game, Bears and Commanders, rematch of the Fail Mary game. 20 I thought I no, that's right. I thought I did 24-27, but that's right. Yes, so sorry. Rematch of the Fail Mary game. The Bears, that was a weird game. It feels like the Commanders should have won that game, and they were kind of giving it away. And then absolutely the Bears should have won the game, off that Hail Mary at the end there. So both teams, you can argue, should have won that game. That game single-handedly derailed the Bears season. They only won one game after that. It was Week 18 against the Packers. They lost out. It was a disaster for them after that point. And, the Commanders were already ascending, but you can argue that game ascended them even more. At home, primetime, Monday night, I just kind of feel like the Commanders are playing a bit better ball. The Bears have won 2 in a row. It feels like it's kind of been a shaky 2 games in a row, more so against the Raiders than it was, against the Cowboys. But even that Cowboys game, the 2 picks in the fourth quarter in the red zone, the second one was when the game was out of hand. But 2 picks in the red zone. Otherwise, the scores would have been a lot closer than it was. Washington at home, I just feel like they're playing a bit better ball. I just trust them a bit more. Bears, their defense, it's actually been decent considering all the injuries, with the exception of the Lions game week 2, obviously. They're getting a bit healthier. It feels like maybe they're gonna get some guys back soon, but on the road in Washington, we really saw the Commanders get a groove in the second half. Really, ever since their first touchdown drive, the game against the Chargers last week, it feels like they just got in a groove after that, especially after that McCaffrey deep bomb to eventually tie the game at 10. Feels like they're in a bit of a groove going against, Bears defense that's been playing solid, but I just trust the Commanders offense a bit more. Commanders defense has not been very good. It feels like. Even last week, the Chargers were moving the ball on them for the most part, just couldn't capitalize, it felt like. And the Bears offense has been, it's kind of like I predicted. It looks good in spurts, looks bad in spurts, looks okay in spurts. So, it's been better and better. It's progressing, definitely seeing signs of growth there. But going against this Commanders defense, I think they'll have a good amount of success, but I just trust the Commanders defense more than the Bears defense in this game, even though they both haven't been too great. And I just trust Jane Daniels and, the more consistent Commanders offense and the Bears offense in this game. I'm gonna marginally lean the Commanders to win 30-24. I think it'll be a close game. I don't see either team winning by more than one score, honestly. Maybe the Commanders you can say by like 10, 13, something like that, but I think it'll be one score regardless of which team wins. So yeah, going with the Commanders. I just trust their defense a bit more and their offense. Point is that at home, prime time, feels like they're more like sort of a big game feel. I just trust them in these situations now that they kind of had a full season under that exposure. The Bears are coming off the bye though, so that's obviously a bit of a boost for them. Well, byes sometimes hurt teams that rush, but most teams it helps them. Maybe they got the bye at a wrong time. They were getting hot, you can argue. If the Bears win the game, I could see their offense doing a bit more than this. Maybe their defense plays a bit better, but I think more so the offense will just have to do a bit more. Very well could see it happening. Wouldn't be surprised if the Bears won, but I'm fairly confident with the Commanders here. Should be an entertaining game. I'm going to roll with the Commanders to win the game by 6. I probably wouldn't touch that 4.5-point spread, though. But I'm going to roll with Washington to win this game 30-24. Okay, let me make sure I got all the games here. Okay, perfect. So, yeah, looks like a pretty good mix of games this week. Definitely a lot of parlay opportunities I'll be taking advantage of, I think. Yeah, so good mix of games. Hopefully it's an entertaining week. As I always say in these videos, if you have any parlays, you do picks, things like that, good luck with that. Good luck to your teams unless I'm pulling against them, no offense. And good luck with fantasy, as I always say. But I will end the video here. Hopefully you guys enjoyed, and thank you for tuning in, guys.